Remember that flyer you shared about the Atlantic Coast Pipeline? The one that promised clean and cheap energy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with natural gas being touted as a bridge fuel.
Right, right.
Well, today's deep dive is going to unpack what's behind those promises. We're diving into New Gaslight by Jonathan Mingle to try to understand the whole saga of the pipeline. And we're really going to dig into this idea of natural gas as like the answer to our energy future.
Yeah.
Like, do those claims hold water? Or are we looking at a whole lot of hot air?
Yeah, well, and it's fascinating how the language used shapes our perception. Take the term natural gas, for example. It's incredibly effective marketing.
Right. And the book opens with a former energy regulator questioning why we even call it natural.
Right.
What does that even mean? It conjures up these images of like bubbling springs and pristine forests, not something that's pulled from the earth in this really complicated process.
Exactly. This isn't by accident. Like, you remember clean coal? The fossil fuel industry excels at using these friendly, positive terms to mask the environmental realities.
Yeah.
They're tapping into this inherent human desire for things that sound natural and safe.
Okay, so the name itself might be a bit of a smokescreen. Then we have Dominion Energy, the company behind the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, with their long history in Virginia, going back to the 18th century. They're practically part of the furniture at this point.
Yeah. And Dominion used that history to their advantage, leveraging it to gain support for the pipeline.
Right.
They positioned themselves as partners in progress, promising jobs, economic growth, even throwing in fiber optic cable along the pipeline route like a bonus prize.
It's like they were saying, look, we're not some outsider corporation. We're practically family. Trust us.
Right.
But if they knew the lay of the land so well, it makes you wonder about their response to a certain hurricane.
You're talking about Camille, of course, the 1969 hurricane that brought catastrophic flooding to Nelson County.
Yeah, Dominion's assurances might have worked, if not for the haunting memory of Camille in Nelson County. The book paints a really vivid picture of the devastation. This wasn't just a storm, it was a trauma etched into the community's memory.
Right, and this is where Vicki Wheaton's story comes in. She became a fierce opponent of the pipeline, but not just because of some abstract environmental concern.
Right.
She had lived through Camille. She knew firsthand the destructive power of those floods and saw the pipeline as a direct threat.
Yeah, the book shares her frustration, even anger, at Dominion.
Yeah.
Did they not know about Camille? Did they not care? She wondered. It really highlights the disconnect between a corporation with its sights set on profit and a community living with the scars of a past disaster.
What's striking is how Dominion underestimated the power of that community, particularly a farmer named John Ed Purvis.
Here's a guy, John Ed Purvis, who wasn't an activist, just a farmer whose family had owned land on that pipeline route for generations.
Right.
And when Dominion came knocking, it lit a fire under him.
Yeah, Purvis's story illustrates how the pipeline awakened a sleeping giant. People who never thought they'd be involved in activism suddenly found themselves on the front lines fighting to protect their land, their history, their community.
And let's not forget Dominion's, shall we say, interesting legal tactics.
Right.
Like accidentally suing the wrong landowners, including the county sheriff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
those blunders were telling. They showed a carelessness, a disregard for the very people they claimed to be partnering with, which only intensified the opposition. But it wasn't just local landowners Dominion misjudged. Their choice of Union Hill for the pipeline's compressor station backfired spectacularly.
Right. This is where that whole is natural gas actually natural question gets even more complicated.
Yeah.
They chose Union Hill, a historical black community, for this industrial facility. And come on, they tried to downplay the community's presence, as if a place with deep roots just wouldn't be noticed.
Yeah, and of course it backfired. Led by activists like Chad Oba and Ella Rose, the community fought back hard. They exposed the environmental injustice at the heart of the project. Here was Dominion, building a shiny new headquarters in Richmond named Canal Place, to honor its history, while attempting to displace a community with even deeper historical roots.
Talk about a double standard. It seems like a classic case of profit over people.
Yeah.
Especially when those people are already marginalized.
The fight in Union Hill exposed a pattern, Dominion prioritizing profit over people, a pattern also evident in their legal strategy. They kept hitting roadblocks, their best-in-class assurances falling flat in court.
Right.
It seems those promises weren't as airtight as they wanted everyone to believe.
And then there were the economic realities starting to bite. The book mentions those investor calls where even Dominion CEO seemed flustered, almost in denial about the ballooning costs and the dwindling need for the pipeline. You could practically hear the air going out of their tires.
That's right. That facade of unwavering confidence was crumbling, and you could sense a shift in the tide. The cancellation of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline was a massive victory for those who had fought tirelessly against it.
It felt like a real David versus Goliath story, you know?
Yeah.
And for once, David actually won.
Yeah.
But the book doesn't really let us get too comfortable with that victory, does it?
Not quite.
Yeah.
The fight for a cleaner energy future is far from over. Remember, Dominion might be investing in wind power now,
Right.
but they're also still building new gas plants.
Yeah.
And then there's the Mountain Valley Pipeline,
Right.
a project facing similar opposition,
Yeah.
yet managing to push through with some, shall we say, creative political maneuvering.
It seems like the battle lines just keep shifting, and we have to
Yes.
stay vigilant. But even beyond any specific projects, this whole saga begs a question, you know? If something as flawed as the Atlantic Coast Pipeline could get this far, what does that tell us about the system itself?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It reveals a system where powerful interests, particularly those with, deep roots, deeper pockets,
Right.
can wield significant influence. The book doesn't offer any, easy solutions.
Right.
But it throws down a challenge, We need to really scrutinize how these decisions are made,
Yeah.
who benefits, and who bears the cost.
And, going back to the core question of our deep dive, if we can't even trust the word natural when it comes to gas, how do we navigate this complex energy landscape? It feels like we're constantly being sold on a new solution, but those solutions often come with their own set of problems.
Absolutely. We need to approach these grand claims with a healthy dose of skepticism,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to fossil fuels. What this deep dive ultimately reveals is the importance of informed action. It's on us to dig deeper, ask the tough questions,
What?
and hold those in power accountable.
So, what does this all mean for you? Well, the Atlantic Coast Pipeline may be dead, but the fight for our energy future is really just heating up. Don't just take their word for it. Do your research, find your voice, and help shape a future powered by something a little more genuinely natural.
It's